PricewaterhouseCoopers flagship headquarters of the West Midlands. Would that be a fair assessment?
That's fair, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Thompson. I'm founder and chair of the Youth Charter and deputy chair of Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. There are faces I do know and there are faces I don't know, which is a good thing, because that's what we were hoping to attract, albeit with all the autumnal challenges we've had by way of weather. So the first thank you is for getting here and the achievement of being able to be representative of your respective organisations. There are people who have not been able to join us for the obvious reasons that I've just made reference to, and there are some who are trying to make their way here, but there are some who are using the interactive digital age to join us. So we have not only those from the West Midlands, but we do have 5 countries from across the 5 continents who are part of the Youth Charter Global Network, and they will be logging in and observing this important day. And it is an important day, because there's always the case, someone always arrives as you begin. Shma, how are you? Welcome. Thank you. But ultimately, this is part of an ongoing journey that is, by March 23rd of this year, 29 years in its making. The Youth Charter is a result of the bidding, hosting and legacy of major games. So it's for that reason that we are here in Birmingham, and we are part of what the Birmingham legacy will look like by way of each and every one of you participating this morning.
And then lastly, our involvement in the games is, a lot of people think when corporates, and you probably see us as a corporate in all honesty, PwC, but when corporates get involved in games, you probably think, well, they just want the tickets and the entertainment for clients, etc. Right? When we did a deal with the games, and I think I was part of the team that negotiated it with them, we said, actually, we don't want any of that. If you force some of that on us, we'll take some of it, but we don't really want any of that. What we want to do, we're a purpose-led organisation, is to make sure that we are helping to develop kids and digital skills in kids that they don't currently have, and that's been exacerbated as an issue obviously by the pandemic. And actually we want to do community programs that are much more relevant to that often used word legacy, but actually what really happens for you and through our communities over the course of the next 12 months is important in the context of the Birmingham Games, but needs to continue to happen for many years afterwards, because of the very nature of the issues that we face in what was a very rich community of different interests. But ultimately, let's be also clear, for all the glitz and the glamour of the games and the fireworks and everything that go off in opening ceremonies, the real challenges that many of our communities face.
Scribe, because they're going to use the whiteboards for you to make notes. And what we will do is we're actually going to take photographs of the notes that are made, so that we can get some data at the end of all this, which we will actually feed in, and then we'll send back out to you, so you have copies of everything that was discussed. Following us going through the scenarios. Excuse me, trying to speak here, thank you. Once we've gone through them all, we're all going to come back together and we're going to share what you've exchanged within your various groups. So one scribe in each group, and then either that scribe or one other person, whoever is happy to then speak and share what each group have come to, their conclusions basically. So.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so if you could all move to a whiteboard,
It's about we've got kids down there filming and they're playing elite players, but we've then got, as I said to you, another 800, 900 kids who aren't going to play to that level. And it's about having sports more than just on the field.
Yeah, it's true. I never like to turn kids away, because from you're here. And I always want to make sure you're here, because that's why we do it, to take you off the street, even for that 2 hours to make sure.
So here's the thing, one of the kids you don't want to turn away, who's got skills, talent and potential, come up to you and give you the gun to look after. You look after it whilst you play for football. What do you do?
You won't take it.
By the way,
If you exclude him, Joe, let's get real here. If they bring a gun to you, the gun is only manufactured to injure or kill. Yeah? What you do with that gun, I'm not saying that you do something with the child, but that gun goes to the police. Full stop. And at the end of the day, even if that child's got it, you've got to think about what planning you've got to do in that child's life, because that child had a gun.
So as a mentor, as a coach, you'd explain to that individual.
Ground rules.
Yeah. And in terms of like this pulling out the star performer, I think sometimes we were talking about that person could be the driver from a positive point of view to bring people that may not attend those sessions or may not deem it as cool or relevant, but the negatives of pulling somebody out, that influencer that could create collateral sort of damage, they may not want to attend or go from there really.
Just to let everyone know that we completely went out of the box on what was on the sheet, because sometimes talking about the situation that you're in and the scenario you get, you can't be using certain boxes, so sometimes we have to look at different ways and methods of getting to a place where we think that this is the best solution or the best way forward. So, this A, B and C thing.
I'm going to pause that, because we'd like to remember that. The frame, the model, that's all there is. You have to work within it, because we work within a society of institutions, controls. But the A, B and C is, I don't know anyone here, I think, who wants to be in a box or a label. So that's what I'm saying, the frame is there, but please hear what's been said, because that's the keynote summary.
The policemen are waving to each other when that policeman. So we find
and the younger you get them, the better it is actually. And I remember trying this with 3, 4, 5-year-olds, and then 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and it works.
We had a regime. We had the youth club running, and unbeknownst to them, we'd invited the local police to come along. They came in their 2 cars, parked up outside. Kids could see them from the windows, and it was amazing to watch their reaction. Some of the kids just came across to the session. Police is that side.
Activity is being provided in the area by local gang interests who wish to keep control of the area, and are also sponsors of local sports and arts tournaments, brackets, battles. So we've got 3 choices. A, this is our responses to A, maintain our existing offer. So we talked about what the pros and cons, the positives and the negative outcomes would be of maintaining our offer in the light of a gang providing alternative offers in the community. So we said by maintaining it, we'd be leading by example, we'd maintain our presence, we've been offering it, we'd carry on, and there would be an alternative offered to what the gang was offering. It would be community-led, we'd still be providing hope, and we'd be engaging, well, this is when Jeff largely with this disruption, wasn't it? We'd be engaging and making use of tech, and we'd be extending our reach. The negatives of maintaining our offer would there be a risk of a reaction from the alternative provided by the gang, that we would be not open to change, the risk would be a threat, it could be violence, it could be intimidation of service users, our users.
Bringing you to that table. But those push and pull factors, when you look at the system experience and you do the mapping, you're always looking at those push and pull factors. But you would get a strong insight to that from that discovery phase. And then going back to your point about trust and who's in the room, it's so crucial.
3 or 4
because if you haven't got that rapport, you can't diagnose an action plan.
And on that basis,
that's my experience. Does that make sense?
So our question was around the action learning scenario. Ours was action learning scenario 3, which was a senior youth worker has been asked to deliver a conflict resolution session between 2 groups of different communities within the youth of high levels of antisocial behaviour. And so we went through the planning, delivery, and map, track and measure. So what we first spoke about was in terms of the planning and preparation that we would need to firstly look at a neutral setting for both groups to come into, and who would be the key influencers and people to invite into that session. So we looked at barriers and dangers of getting people to the session. the pre-briefing session with both groups to identify what their issues were and what it is that they would want to see, some of the things that it is that they would want to change, to understand both sides of the story. So we'd take inspiration and direction from them, find out what the issues were. It would be a bit of a discovery session, so who was involved, how long had the conflict been happening for, establish what it is that both groups want, and establish who the influencers were in that group as well.
The great thing about all of this is once you get the right diversity of life experiences, personally and professionally lived, and I suppose evidenced in both challenge, opportunity, loss, and success, it can only give you wisdom. And I think we've made this subject far too complex and difficult. If you give them somewhere to go, something to do, and that someone to show them that's intergenerational, consistent. The current sport for development is third world aid. Whatever reasons, and I'm not going to speak to that now, we have seen things done to our communities. There's a wonderful point made about the data. Who trusts who with the data now? The data provides a system that allows a sector, now many argue an industry. But I'm sure you've heard everything enough to give you confidence that I heard some people say we might as well give up. Is there anyone who's prepared to give up on young people? Is anyone prepared to give up on communities? Or are they prepared to give up on life? Those young people are doing what we're doing today, every day. They're actually learning life scenario every single day. They meet incredible challenges and they overcome them. And I hear people say, we're going to give them what they want. I'm here to give them what they need. A good social coach, a good social professional, a good social broker, or actor. We give them what they need. At the very core of a social coach is to be able to tell a story. A story can change a life. It can influence a life. At the right time, you will all remember a time in your lives where someone said a word to you that resonated change. I'm gonna hope that you hold your points of contribution, because that would reflect all of that, because it models what we haven't had. Everybody holds on to their data, everybody holds on to what they do, everybody holds on to where they want to be, but we've got nowhere. Why? Look at the educational attainment, look at those who are now on the streets, look at those who are in the graveyard, look at those in the University of Crime, and I can go on and I can go on. Socially, culturally, economically, we are, in business terms, in administration. I'd be calling in PricewaterhouseCoopers with a global team to go into a community, look at that community, and like the military do, they identify the problem, they nullify the problem, and they move it on, and they take it over. Communities have to take their communities back. This model was developed over many years, you've got enough information about it. What I wanted to show you was what it can look like. That's a local model, there's a Birmingham model, there are campuses, dormant, but there is a global element to this, because everything that happens in your local communities is influenced by an interactive set of thumbs. Joel, welcome.
And we can aggregate from community to super community to meta community to hyper communities, which means that we have scalability on a global basis. We can do programs that will take cities, countries, regions, and then reconnect at the top. And what we have here on the instigation of Jay, we've actually started to initiate 5 campuses and the social coaches academy. And these are connecting into a single space, but each of those campuses, as you see in a minute, are independent ecosystems. And intersectionality is around the young person. In other words, if a young person is in the Birmingham campus, they can choose to have access to content that is made available by the Glasgow campus if that content is of relevance to them. They decide, beyond the campus that they belong to, which other campus they can basically connect into in terms of getting access to information and stuff like that. So today I'm just going to show you very quickly the social coaches space and the Birmingham campus, and we'll go deeper into the Birmingham campus and hopefully we'll get the perspective of what the technology does. So in the social campus, what we have here is effectively the ecosystem where training can be provided to the social coaches using the models that Jeff has been working on. And this space basically will allow to train the social coaches and have a space where they can basically aggregate amongst themselves. And just to give you a real quick understanding, this technology, we built everything from scratch, we don't use any external technologies, but to imagine the Scottish enterprise described there, you could think about Calendly, Zoom, Eventbrite, YouTube, Netflix, Spotify.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks to put me in front of following a world leader. So I guess, I'm personally invested in the vision and Jeff's energy. Jeff and I go back many decades. And we've got that martial art combat sport bond that we joke about. But we've been friends for a long time now. So when Jeff was appointed as deputy chair for the Games, I thought, God, Birmingham don't know what they've got hold of, and Jeff will make himself heard. So there is a legacy opportunity for the Games, and we want it to be a meaningful one for the communities, and we want it to benefit yourselves as the providers of and the supporters for the communities in Birmingham. There is an ambition to do something different with legacy. I'm not in charge of a legacy budget, but I have positioned ourselves as Sport Birmingham to be in a place of influence in some of that budget. And I think, as Jeff says, there's a huge opportunity, a huge need here, but we need a little bit of seed funding to start something off. And that's what I'm committed to do, that's what I have committed to do with Jeff, to say, let's try and get some money out of whoever's funding the legacy for the Commonwealth Games. And that funding isn't very much. In fact, I should say, shouldn't I? So I know a lot of you here, but Sport Birmingham is one of 43 what are called active partnerships in England now. So there is, for those of my colleagues in the Black Country, I know there's some here, you've got active Black Country over there. They're not as big or as good as us, but they do that. But there's 43 of us covering England, and we've got a responsibility to bring investment into our place and then help as many people who deliver good community sports, physical activity for the places and the communities that need it most.
It's 1:15. If you look at the schedule, we're absolutely on time. I think we equally don't understand as young people on the streets are very much on time. They're there and on point in everything they want to do and what they want to realise. There's 15 minutes to reflect 3 hours, of which 2 would have represented your social coach contribution. So look at the hours you've all contributed, look at the information, knowledge, wisdom, experience that you've contributed to, and what the art of the possible could be.
Through the youngers, the creators, the innovators who are willing to take the knowledge that we've accumulated over the years of being on the planet, then I think it's transforming, Jeff, what you guys have done in the space of time that you've had. But to get real traction, my opinion is that we have to have more people who look like you. We have to have more people who catch them before they start dreaming. Start interjecting into their thought processes that they can be the creative creators. And then we'll have a movement. Because once the youth agenda is driven by the youth, for the youth, it's unstoppable.
But when you say it's young as 8, working previous decades in schooling, I think that's a community that is being really looked at. When you've got the drug dealers standing outside the schools and they're walking past and the teachers are doing nothing, it's about where do we target, how do we approach this youth, kind of like, what you mentioned, how do we get to that when it's starting younger?
Every single one of you. So teachers are no longer teachers.
They're not.
From today, on the basis of this, I will present this to a World Education Forum. It's global, it's all 5 continents. It's classroom, it's playground, it's beyond the school gate, it's formal, it's informal. Learning is not done in the classroom anymore. Anyone who's delusional enough to believe that really will lose the understanding and appreciation of what we're trying to achieve. This is the teacher. This is the teacher. I'm sure everyone here agrees that every life is precious. So I'm not prepared to lose life. As you will tell, I was a very bad loser. But I learned from my losing. But I will not accept loss of life. It's not acceptable. And then everyone says, oh, you're becoming too passionate. Who feels it knows it, agreed? Someone here will have had loss. We handle it in different ways. But if we're going to accept that on the news yesterday, another teenager, I hadn't heard about that one, some even more angry. Yes, I get very emotionally invested. But that's because I've been doing it for 28 years plus. And I'd like to see something look like what we all had. I think there's enough intergenerational experiences and stories that all suggested that we had the ability to enjoy and be inspired and given life, experience and wisdom. That's all we're trying to do here. There's nothing complicated. So why is it so bloody hard? It should not have to be as we've had to do this morning. It should be natural. But it isn't, so we've got to replace it. And we've got to accept where we are. What I'm wanting to establish, because I'm here to say to you, where did we get here, Janice? Tuesday.
Tuesday.
All right, the outside has been in Brom, West Midlands, for 4 days. I'm absolutely clear now, and I had my role at Birmingham 2022 last February. I'm absolutely clear what needs to happen. And everyone here has confirmed, if every single one of you gave 2 hours of your time in how we move forward, because it will not be a me, it will be a we, a collective we. And we can change the world for the communities that are young people here, and for me, on July 28th, every single young person of the Commonwealth can watch these games. That's what I wanted. Opening ceremony, 100 metres, closing ceremony, anything they want to watch, why not? It's their games, but they won't be able to come here. But we've got means in which we can do that. But this will happen, because guess what? To not do so is not even worth contemplating. This is not an embarrassment. Every time I do this, I'm given a very humble reminder, because the action learning scenarios are real. There's a real consequence and outcome. And I have that story to try and inspire you and take us to a humble place. Marlon, could you come out, please? Seems too embarrassing. But it and wives are so intuitive. My wife always brings me to a humble place. Stories change lives. I'll support you to tell your story. It's deep.
So I'm the founder of We Go Outside Too. My name is Marlon Patrice. I founded We Go Outside Too in 2020. The reason I started this organisation is because my son passed away. He was a teenager in January 2020. I was just using nature to help me, and the whole organisation is to bring the community together, and also just showing out, going outdoors in nature heals, and this is why it is just trying to just get the youth out into nature and just look for alternative means instead of just being Thank you. Thank you.
If a life is priceless, this is not acceptable.
To Jeff and to everybody, thank you for asking us to host this, but also thank you to all of you for your contribution today, including the most humbling last time we heard there. I think it's really clear what they ask us. As Jeff said, when we've talked actually quite a few times, I'm not quite sure where this is going. And I actually said to some of my colleagues this morning, I'm not quite sure where this is going. but isn't that a parallel universe to where actually a lot of our youth are at? Right? They're not sure where it's going either. So they're not sure what's coming down the digital pipes of death. So I think the call to action is actually relatively straightforward, and actually if we put our collective minds to this, then there is a way forward, including what we heard in that video, as well as we will walk through what that framework looks like. So thank you. It's a real privilege to host. I'm sure that there's much more work that we can all take away from this, but also really, and we say this a lot in the sort of education and the courses that we do within a professional services environment. It's what you do next week with what you've heard this morning and what you've contributed to this morning. And so nobody's going to come and ask you, nobody's going to come and tell you what to do, but there is enough, I think, in what's been said that everybody individually has now some tools, some inspiration from the conversations, and a framework to take forward a contribution to make a difference. And bluntly, as an organisation, you don't need to know, but actually make a difference is one of our core values. So a real privilege to host. Thank you very much.
We'll embark on a continued journey with us. There are some exciting plans. There's lots of conversations being contributed by lots of people from the Birmingham, West Midlands, Wolverhampton, Coventry, but there is a broader impact to other communities in major cities of this country and in the Commonwealth. It has to be about that. So I just want to personally thank every single one of you. And I hope that we can continue this journey. As the late Mandela said, vision without action is but a dream. Action without vision is merely passing time. Vision with action can change the world. That is the driver of everything that I do. Because when they said it was impossible, by the way, he was a boxer, he was a warrior, he had a doctor that was a karate black belt, and that's how we did the real quiet work. And by the way, a lot of things that you do will be quietly impactful. You may equally be vilified, you might be criticised, you might be given a hard time. If that is the case, you're doing the right thing. If you're not, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place. And as I say, if you want to stay young, stay with the youngins. God bless. Second.